And if you just repeat your intro, and thank you for joining us.
Okay. So I'm going to be talking about the 5 interrelated aspects of my spiritual journey, and the things that have challenged me in the past, and maybe the um, tools that I've used to help overcome those challenges. Um, and hopefully you'll be able to relate to some of it um, that I'll be talking about. So let me first name the 5 interrelated challenges. And the first one is healing the past, forgiveness. The second one is taking responsibility for your thoughts, feelings, actions, and your programming. The third one is recognizing and managing your ego. And the fourth is dealing effectively with what is. And the last one is loving yourself. So those are 5 areas that I'm going to talk about. They're like 5 pillars that are interrelated, that hold your process together. So let me start with healing the past. It's usually not very helpful to spend much time in the past thinking about the past. But when it is helpful is when something comes up that that causes you to have an emotional reaction. Then you know that that's a clue that there's something in your past or your programming from the past that is coming up for healing. You see, our subconscious beliefs are formed when we have, as a child or earlier in our life, we have an upsetting experience and we make a decision at that time that may or may not be um, uh, rational. So that decision becomes our programming. That's how we become programmed in the first place. Our programming is the beliefs that we hold that direct our thoughts and feelings. So, what was helpful to have to overcome these situations when they come up is to have a spiritual mentor or a counselor or someone you can trust who can help you to identify what it is that what's in your programming that isn't rational. Someone who can see things more clearly. And in my case, it was Barbara Kruger, who was the person who was running a bookstore years ago at Unity. And she was very helpful. She helped me to process some things that came up for me. And she helped me to create affirmations to work with. And along with those affirmations, she helped me with some forgiveness processes that allowed me to let go. And every time you do a forgiveness process, you take a little chunk of it off, but you have to keep doing forgiveness because it seemingly is endless. And these little chunks that you take out each time you do a forgiveness process, they add up and eventually you get to the point where you don't have any emotional reaction anymore to that particular issue. So it's an ongoing process, this idea of forgiveness and release, letting go. So that is what I have to say about healing the past, very briefly. And the next one, taking responsibility for your thoughts and feelings and actions and your programming, is related to this idea of healing the past, because our program is created in the past. So for me, I've found that writing in a journal is very helpful, because when you write, for example, if you have an upsetting situation come up and you sit down and you start writing about what happened and how you feel and your thoughts about it, what you're telling yourself about it. And in that process, a couple of things happen. You're getting it all out on paper. You're getting it out of your system on paper. And then you're also, you're sort of in the observer mode, because you're observing yourself as you're going through all this, putting it all down. And the beauty of journaling is that you can go back later and look at what you've written, and there's your programming. It's right there. And so then you can take that programming and start working on it with whatever method you choose. But you can actually see what you're programmed to be, what you're programmed to react to. I recommend the book The Artist's Way by Julie Cameron. And I've been doing that work for at least 30 years. And I write in my journal almost every morning, and I find it very, very helpful. And when I also write it whenever something comes up, some upsetting thing happens, and I go to the journal and I do that process of writing it down. So another book that was very helpful to me was a book called Codependent No More by Melody Beatty. And this book helped me to recognize different thoughts and feelings and actions that I was doing that were not serving me. You see, when you're raised in a dysfunctional situation, you don't realize that you're doing stupid things. You're doing things that don't help you, you know. And so reading that book was a real eye-opener for me, and helped me to change a number of things. So the third area is recognizing the ego and managing it. I had always known about the ego. I'd taken a number of psychology classes, and I knew what the ego was, and I could see it sometimes in other people. But I never really applied it to myself. Yeah, I thought, I'm an easygoing person, pretty laid back most of the time. So I didn't think I had an ego problem. But when I started reading A Course in Miracles, I became aware. I became honest with myself. and I began to see some of the cringeworthy decisions and actions I had taken when I was listening to the voice of the ego instead of the Holy Spirit. And so, A Course in Miracles helped me to become aware of the workings of the mind and how the ego gets in there sometimes, even when we're not thinking about it. It gets right in there. And I remember the exercises at the beginning of um, the the book were so frustrating to me because they seemed to make no sense. But I continued working with it and eventually reached a sort of understanding of what was really going on with that. So, um, for the ego, I recommend the Course in Miracles. And then the fourth one is working with what is, how you react to things that happen. And sometimes it's anger, sometimes it's you go into poor me or numerous other reactions. And it's always a wonderful opportunity to learn about your programming when you come to have that experience. And again, write it down. And once you write it down, then practice going into the observer mode and not reacting, because reacting is your programming. So practice not reacting. Just observe and ask the Holy Spirit, how can I see this differently? That's a really important statement. So every day, life offers us opportunities to stimulate our growth. Let me tell you a little story. A few years ago, 1985 to be exact, I signed up for a 9-month trainer course with the Kenkai's organization in Coos Bay, Oregon. And this turned out to be spiritual boot camp for me. Rather than military boot camp, this was spiritual boot camp. And I want to tell you, it was wild. It was intense. And it started out with over 100 people in that course. And within a couple of months, there were half of that many. At the end of
Lucille,
the course,
what was the name of the book he wrote, or the name Ken Kai's?
Ken Kai's,
Not Be Here Now, or no?
no, he's an older guy.
Yeah,
Uh,
I remember hearing about that.
oh, I can't think of the name of
That's
his
okay.
offhand. I'll think of it and get it back to you. So anyway, at the end of the course, there were 13 people that had survived
Oh my
this boot
gosh.
camp. But only 3 of them were selected to be trainers. And I was not one of those 3. So I stayed on for another 9 months and worked as an assistant to one of the trainers. But anyway, this program was designed to bring up stuff for you to work on. And we were given a number of processes, and depending on what the situation was, we could apply one of those processes. And for example, we were housed in a dormitory with either 4 or 6 bunk beds. And so there were, in each room, there were pods, they called them, of people, pods of people. And each pod was given something to work on, some kind of project. And so the first week, we were all settled in our nice little room with our new roommates, and the staff that gave us our opportunities for growth told us that we had to change pods. We had to change our room and our pods. And if you can imagine 100 people moving from their room to someone else's room, and someone else is moving into their room, 100 people doing that at the same time. It was, let's say, chaotic. And a lot of people were really upset by that. So we got into our new situation, and another week went by, and the same thing. They told us to change pods. And this chaos, this kind of chaos would be a daily thing. Other things that they did was, of course, there was no drinking allowed, but that took out a few people with that one too. And then one day they said, no more drinking coffee. We're not serving coffee anymore. So they want you to suddenly drop coffee just like that. Well, some of us discovered there was a coffee shop a couple blocks away, so we didn't stick with that one too long. But they tested us for food allergies. So for about 6 weeks, we went through this food allergy testing situation where we would have whatever they're testing that morning, we would have that for breakfast. Just that thing. So, for example, oatmeal. We'd have oatmeal with no sugar, no milk, no anything else with it, just oatmeal. And that triggered quite a few people. If you're going to have just squash, for example, for one day for breakfast, when you don't like squash in the first place, it was wild. It was really wild. And after you had that food, you had to monitor how you felt and took your temperature and all kinds of stuff. So it was very challenging. But the thing is, bringing it back to today, the thing is that we get tested like that every day with something. Something strikes us and we react. And that's our spiritual journey. That's our task, to learn how to deal with that and to be able to go through life just being peaceful and not react. Just to be able to just be calm, accepting, loving, that kind of thing all the time. So that's how I learned to deal with what is. It was pretty intense. The last thing, the fifth aspect, is the learning to love yourself. And I think you have to learn to love yourself before you can truly love another person. When a wise woman told me years ago that, Lucile, you need to love yourself more, I can remember thinking, what does that even look like? where do I start with that? I was at a loss, really. And so she recommended the Louise Hay book, You Can Heal Your Life. And in that book, um, it talks about going to the mirror every morning and greeting yourself, looking right into your eyes and saying, I love you. And doing that over and over and over helps you to actually come to that point where you do um, love yourself. But it was a course of love that really helped me uh, to become to love myself as a spiritual being, to recognize that um, that I'm okay, I'm innocent, um, I'm a conduit for um, love to come through, and um, to love, begin to love yourself from a spiritual perspective. You come to a self-acceptance that's deep, and I really like that. I think that um, loving yourself incorporates not only taking care of yourself physically, but mentally and emotionally and financially and spiritually. You have to be committed um, to doing the things that you need to do to heal your life. For myself, I've discovered after much error that I am um, I am better when I'm not in a relationship. I'm clearer. Um, I think when I'm in a relationship, I'm totally focused on that other person, and I lose my sense of self. And so, for myself, just being independent from a relationship helps me to be um, stronger and clearer, and I just have more clarity when I am just by myself. Um, I'm not spending time and energy focusing on the other person. And it's really, really an unselfish thing to do, because if you get involved with someone else and you're not clear, you're not stable, you're not um, strong in your own self, then you're not really helping that other person. So that's what I feel that for myself. Other people may have different experience with relationships, but that's what works for me. I've been single more than I've been married, so I'm very happy as a single person, very happy. So in summary, I'd like to just say that as we work to heal ourselves with all these various 5 areas, and there may be more. I mean, other people have their own areas of work, but as we begin to work with these things, we become more centered. Um, we get a sense of well-being, of greater health. Um, we begin to get in touch with our feelings and just allow them to move through us, to just allow them to be without judging or um, reacting to them. And I think we develop a deep sense of appreciation and acceptance of yourself and other people, and continue to work on forgiveness. Um, I think we reclaim our innocence, and our lives begin to reflect more love, more personal power, and we feel more courage and hope as we commit to this living in a pattern of divine love. And I think this is our mission, to be the love in the world. And um, then I thought maybe we could spend a few minutes talking about what I just mentioned, if someone has any questions.
Thank you so much, Lucille, and for responding to that little emergency situation we had and starting with a fresh slate, willingness to share things. And
Thank you.
I'll let other people speak. If you have something, just unmute
Lucille,
yourself.
when you said the part about studying Louise Hay and looking in the mirror and saying, I love you
Yes.
every day, I immediately felt awkward. So I think that's something I should try.
It isn't awkward at first. It is, you feel funny looking in the mirror and talking to yourself, and uh, persist with that because it really helps.
The same for loving your body, just
Yes,
like you are.
yes. A matter of self acceptance.
Mhm.
I did read just recently that women, why are it? Well, it was why spiritual women are usually alone their whole life.
Oh, great.
Well, and I am too, like you, Lucille. And I know it was saying that because you can be focused and know, you got enough to work on your past and have new stuff going on. But it just said, why are spiritual women alone for the majority of their life? And then I went, oh, then it went out. So
I don't think it's necessarily essential for a woman to be alone. But if a woman is strong and healthy and has a good sense of herself, then she can be in a relationship.
mhm.
But for me, it was very difficult.
Don't get any ideas, Chris.
Don't worry.
But I do want to say that where I was in the past, I couldn't attract anybody that was what I really needed until now. And now I'm like, oh, okay, I'm okay anyway. I don't need anybody. But that's for me. I was just learning.
Yes. Life is a learning process.
Yes.
I was just recently with my husband passed away almost 2 years ago now, and I've just now started to feel comfortable entertaining the idea of maybe going out to dinner with someone or that kind of thing. But so I had a little encounter with an experience, an hour or so, and it only took me probably 30 seconds to realize that I'm not going back there again, that kind of thing. So, yeah. I don't, Kai, you're muted. But anyway, That's what I think. That's for what one way to help explain my situation is that I've done so much work to release myself from some of my past that it doesn't take very long anymore to be around people or in a situation that I realize that I'm beyond that and I don't want to engage in that again. So perhaps that might be part of the Kathleen, what this it's going to take maybe it's not going to be like in a sexual loving relationship that we find attraction from the other sex, or even maybe it's going to, for me anyway, I can see that it's going to be different. It's going to be male and female. It's going to be probably not a sexual thing, but it's going to be at a different, higher consciousness level that I can kind of see happening for me. Is that kind of what you see, Lucille, too?
Yes, I have had recently, the last 4 or 5 years, um, several male friends that I interact with. But there's not this, I don't know, angst or whatever with the relationship with them. There's a camaraderie. We can have conversations that aren't stilted.
Yeah.
It's more relaxed. Um, and I think that's what happens when you become strong and have a good sense of yourself, which I did not have before in the
Oh, I
past.
didn't.
Yeah.
How many do it in age 20, 30, even 40,
Yeah.
50, you know? It's
Yeah.
kind of something you learn, particularly if you put the work in to obtain that higher consciousness and then act from that.
Yeah. I think this probably works the same way for guys as well as
Yeah,
gals.
I would think
What
so.
do you guys think? Have you have any thoughts about that?
I think there's a lot of truth to what you're saying, and it seems like good advice. Haven't figured it out yet myself, but it's nice to hear people who have figured out peace and balance in their relationships and get some clues. I think the five principles Lucille mentioned are certainly a big part of that. Loving yourself and yeah, humility, willingness to address things that press your buttons.
You know, I wrote the word cringeworthy down when you said it. And the reason being is this morning I was thinking of something in the past and I literally cringed. So I thought, and I let it go right away. So I can't remember what it was. But now, do you think that if I get a cringeworthy moment again, I should just let it go or I should look at it?
I would think, look, I would look at it. I don't know.
I mean, and then forgive it. Yeah, assess
Go
it,
ahead and
forgive it,
forgive
and let it go.
yourself.
But if you don't let it go and it'll stay.
You have
Okay.
to forgive yourself that you did that, whatever
Okay.
it was, and then let it go. Kai, were you going to say something?
Yeah, my experience, I love what you're talking about in terms of relationships with the other gender.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I've experienced and the women that I've had the pleasure of being a part of their consciousness and how they're moving through their forgivenesses and what they went through in their families as they were growing up. But my experience has been women are harder to do this with other women because my experience is if one woman like you know, is on this spiritual ladder and spiritual route, I think other women, either they're jealous or they just don't get it. And so that's my experience. My experience. Sorry. Anyway.
Yeah, everybody has their own journey. And
Yeah.
if you associate it with the ladder, they may be on a lower rung.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm
I
realizing
really
that
like the
we're
stuff that Mel Robbins is putting out about just let them. And it just seems so simple, but it's very, very powerful to just let the other person be who they are and not judge them.
Yeah.
But
And where
particularly
they are.
because we want to fix people.
Yeah.
Or, we have that tendency, well, unless you've done some work to not do that anymore, like what she's suggesting, fix people or correct people or, not be be non-judgmental to them and such. So there's not a lot of people that you come across in my daily life anyway that are working on some of those issues.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
we usually stop at 1, but since we start a little late, if folks want to stay another 10 minutes or so,
Sure.
I think so.
Sure.
If you can.
Lucille, would you review your 5 points again for us? Just review the 5 points.
Okay. Healing the past and forgiveness. Let me get my notes here. The second is taking responsibility for your thoughts, feelings, actions, and programming. Number 3 is recognizing and managing your ego. Number 4 is dealing effectively with what is. And 5 is loving yourself. And you can see how those are all interrelated. I mean, it's all happening at once.
It all happens at once, yeah.
Yes.
Because sometimes I'm still healing myself from my past when something comes up, the example I gave a few minutes ago was that all of a sudden I realized within 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes that was something I experienced before. I'm not going to react to it. I'm not going to go there anymore, So the reaction time is not 17 years like it was before, Now it's down to minutes,
Yeah.
And that's not an exaggeration.
Yeah, what I was trying to say when I was muted.
Yes.
It's actually 7 seconds.
Oh.
That's
good.
That's what the research is for years.
That's about what it took, to tell you the real truth. And I was so proud of myself. I almost gave a little tear to myself because I said, Debbie, you've come such a long ways. Yes. It took me only 7 seconds to step back.
Yeah. If you're open to, receiving that reaction, it doesn't mean that you're going to be lifelong friends with somebody, but it does help you to understand why you may have a connection or not have a connection.
Exactly.
This is a little sidebar, but when I was a headhunter, we were taught, and it's the truth, that when you go in for an interviewer, the boss will know in 7 seconds whether he's going to hire you or not.
Exactly.
7 seconds.
Well, we intuitively size up people very quickly when we meet someone new.
I think a lot of it is energy too.
Yes, a lot of it.
I was thinking about that's in my history. So we've been together since I think I was 21 and he was 22. And
we know the story, Chris. He saw you in the cafeteria. We know know the song.
There's been a movie
Yeah,
made too.
It's a favorite.
We've been growing up spiritually together and side by side. So we both reached out into different communities for more spiritual growth and then come back together.
That's a
And,
good thing. Yeah.
and
Good thing.
that's been wonderful.
When I was married and I started ACIM back like in 80 or whatever. And so I started to grow spiritually. And I remember I looked for my 3 volumes of ACIM, and my husband had thrown them in the burning barrels in the backyard. He said, "Why do you have to change? Why are you changing?" And that's, I mean, I changed and he didn't. So I hear from Matt and Chris. I mean, if you can grow together or just kind of keep even keel, you were so blessed.
Yeah, very blessed.
Yeah.
I researched that Keys was the Handbook to Higher Consciousness.
That's the title.
Remember, it was yellow. It came out in the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah. And
It was a #1 bestseller back then.
right. For some reason, that book spoke to me.
Me too.
Wow, I have to say that experience of going through his growth
Boot camp.
experience. It was boot camp. It was wild. It was wild, and I'm sure glad I did it.
Was there like drugs involved at all? I'm just wondering, did he try to get you to higher consciousness with drug
No.
application? Because
No.
that's really a big thing right now. Well, I don't know, it has been for a long time. Like the Indians and peyote and things like that, and healing using drugs. But I think that, it's much different than the recreational drugs that perhaps some of us used to do, so to speak. But I know that my husband's daughter, is a psychotherapist, and she has these mushrooms and she takes people on these journeys that they go back into their past, but it's all supervised with people who are supervised that it help them when they go through their tripping process. It's all in a contained environment and such. So I don't know. That's something that is another attempt, a different way to get to a higher consciousness but maybe, is it really higher consciousness? I don't know. Is it finding out some stuff of your past and how to deal with it? But
I can't say I haven't done anything with drugs. It might be easier with drugs than actually facing.
well, I think like Don Juan and the peyote, and some of the Indians smoke the medicine pipe and stuff like that. So different chemicals have been used a long time to get to different breaking through the veils, but you just wonder if you're only going into the astral plane, or are you really going up into the higher levels?
Well, if you don't, you can go back and re-experience something, but if you don't try to heal it, it's not going to help going back.
Yeah.
It's not going to help.
I think that's the key. Healing. Yeah, that is the key.
Yes. I was just thinking about Chris and Matt, how nice it is for them in their relationship to understand what the other person is doing, and they're trying to grow their own way, and they're allowing the other person to be who they are and to grow in their own way. And that is so rare in relationships, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting part of the let me equation, because typically what the process is somebody is doing something or saying something or whatever the case might be, And you're just going to say, well, okay, let them be it. That's just who they are. The challenge is then is when the other person, it kind of clicks in, and now they're talking to me saying, well, go ahead and do it. So it's when you get to the two-way, then it becomes really powerful because now your partner or your friend or whoever it is can tell me, where I'm going to a place where they're not willing to go. They like, I can go, but I'm not coming.
Yes.
So
That's
it
a
works on
nice
both sides. Yeah.
that's a nice little sneak preview for next month.
A
And thank you,
good segue.
thank you, Kai, for willing to step up this morning, and Lucille for saving the day at the last minute. But
Well,
if you did,
I apologize for being late. I
gosh, you handled
had
it really
changed,
well. Thank
yeah,
you.
I changed something on my computer yesterday, and today it was all goofy. So
And I
What's the
realize that
date? What's the date for next month?
that'll be the
18th,
10th. The 10th.
10th. Yeah. Either 19th if it's Saturday.
The 10th of May is the next one, I believe. Does that work for you, Kai?
May 10th, is that a Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good.
And they're all recorded too, right, Leroy?
Most of them.
We have a
Yes.
library that we can go back and listen.
Yeah, I can post the link here.
Yep, please.
But yeah, thank you so much for your willingness to step up, Kai, and for hosting next month, and Lucille for for responding to it in a crisis moment with grace.
Yes.
I'm going to give this talk again at Fellowship the first Sunday in May. If you
Okay.
want to hear it again.
All right.
Good.
That's
Might
very
not be
nice.
exactly the same, but the same gist.
It's
Okay.
a great overview and a summary of many of our journeys.
Does anyone have any other parting comments or questions before we break up? If you didn't get a chance to say something, or
Thanks, Lucille. You've always been an inspiration.
Thanks.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Good to see
Lucille.
you again.
All right.
Good to
Bye-bye.
see everybody, friends.
thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye, guys.
Talk to you soon. Okay.